Good morning, stamping friends. Welcome to Learning with Friends. This is Pat Fairless, and I'm from Fairless Stamp and Flair. And if this is the first time joining us, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Each Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, I come to you with a video to show you how to do either a technique or maybe it'll be a tip or a trick. I don't typically make a complete card, but the focus is on how to do the technique. So today's technique is Crayon Resist, and there's 3 different ways I found to do this. Maybe there's more, but I'm going to show you 3 different ways. So let's go ahead and flip my camera down and get started. Okay, the first 2 ways use an embossing folder. And for all 3 methods, you will need a white crayon. And in my research on how to do this, it indicated that Crayola crayons work best. I don't know why, I have no idea. I didn't try any other kind because I just happen to have Crayola crayons in my house for some reason. I think I might have done this technique or a technique with crayons a long time ago, but you need a white crayon. And I've broken mine in half because one technique I'm going to use this half a piece that has a full, it doesn't have a point. This one has a point, and the last technique I'm going to show you will use that point. So I sharpened it up nice and good. But for the first 2, you're going to want to have an embossing folder. And if this is your first time doing this, like it kind of was mine, I've tried several different embossing folders, and I'll be very honest with you, some of them worked much better than others. Some didn't seem to work very well at all. But let me go ahead and show you this. I'm going to show you 2 of them using this piece of white cardstock and this embossing folder, which is from the Basics 3D embossing folder. It has large dots on it. And the side of the folder you want to focus on is the deboss side, which if it's a Stampin' Up! Embossing folder, that's the side with the little logo on it. And we're just going to use the back side of it and lay our cardstock in there. But if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Folder, if you're using another folder, the deboss side is the side where you will feel the indentations, not the raised surface. The pattern is going to be indented. So I'm going to lay this on here. And I probably could have used some tape or something to hold it in place. I'm just going to try to hold it firmly. It's actually pretty easy to do that. And then we're just going to take the side of the crayon and we're going to rub it over the cardstock. And I'm going to push fairly hard. Not hard enough to break the crayon, but you want to make sure that you're going to get a good amount of crayon on here. It's really the wax, I think, that we're after. So I'm going over this quite well. And I'm going to move my fingers over here to get the other side because I'm going to use this same piece of paper or cardstock. It's just plain basic white cardstock, nothing special about it. And I typically start with a piece of cardstock that's larger than what I want to end up with. That way I can cut it down to size because sometimes it's difficult to get the crayon on the edges. You don't really want to get the crayon on your embossing folder. I did on one of them. It was a little hard to get it off. So I'm going to try to avoid that. Well, let's try this and we'll see how this turned out. So the first alternative or way to do this is to use a blending brush. And I'm going to work with Old Olive ink today. As I complete each of them, I will show you a completed card that I made with the particular method. So on this, I'm gonna do half of it with the blending brush, and then I'm gonna do the other half with a water painter, which is another alternative way to do it. So let me go ahead, and I'm gonna bring in a scrap of paper just so I can keep my background a little bit clean. And you want this to be, you don't want streaks really. So I'm just gonna do the bottom portion. And it takes a bit of work. I should say work, really. And you can see I probably should have brushed off right there, but it's okay. It's fine. You can start to see, I hope you can start to see those dots show up on the background. I'm just going to turn this a little bit, make it a little easier. And this particular embossing folder seemed to work pretty well. I got fairly clear dotted images. Obviously, you can make this as light or as dark as you want by the number of times you go over it. But this is the technique using a blending brush and just your standard classic ink. Now, once you complete inking it up, you do want to take a tissue, and I've just got Kleenex here, and wipe this off a bit. And any ink that's on those areas that where the crayon was, resist the ink. And this is just to wipe it off. So I hope you can see that. You can see those circles on there. So let me show you the card that I made with this particular method of the Crayon Resist technique. I used little monkeys, and I just used a portion of it to create a little bit of a background here on half of my card. And then I proceeded to make the rest of the card. This is with Little Monkey and Me Cute. And my colors I used are Old Olive and Copper Clay. His face is Petal Pink. And the bananas I just stamped with Black Memento ink, and then I colored them with the Daffodil Delight and Lemon Lolly stamp and blend. So that's my first card. Inside, I made an extra little piece to add a strip of bananas, and then did the same thing on the envelope. And like I said, I tend to make my technique sheet, which this is what I call a technique sheet, bigger than I need. And so I had an extra piece, and I just put that on the side of my envelope as well. So that's my first card. Now let's go ahead, and I already have this done with my blending brush, but let's use the water painter. And for that, I am going to add, move this over a little bit, just a drop of ink here in my, you don't need a lot, in my cover. You could squeeze it. I find it using a re-inker, since I have them, is easier. And I'm going to squeeze some water in here and water this down a fair amount. Depends on how dark you want it. I did find a little extra water seemed to work better with this technique. Now I'm just going to brush this across the cardstock. And you don't want to overbrush it, because this is just regular basic white cardstock. And get my ink out of the way here. And so the water and basic white cardstock, a lot of water, it's not a good combination, right? And you can use your tissue again to just dab a little bit of this up. So you can see the difference between the two. The water painter, I found, did, on average, I would say it was usually darker than the blending brush, but perhaps I could have blended it a little longer with a brush to darken it. But there you see the two different effects. Now, I'm going to be real honest with you. I am not going to lead you astray when it comes to techniques. I'm not sure if this is one of my favorite techniques of all time. Probably not. And why I mentioned earlier to try it with different embossing folders is because it turns out very differently. And here's one I did. This was done with the quarterfoil tile embossing folder. And I like the side. This is the side with the blending brush. The blending brush side I kind of liked. The side with the water painting, not so much. I didn't really feel like the image showed up very well. So, and I have a few more. I'll just show you them quickly here. That way, these are the geometric patterns embossing folders, and there's 2 of them that come in this pack. One with little diamonds on it, or triangles, I guess, and then this one's got 3 different designs. And here's the one with the 3 different designs. This side is with the blending brush, and this side is with the watercolor painter. Now on this one, I actually think the watercolor painter maybe looks a little bit better. Here's the ones with the diamonds. And here I think I like the blending brush better. But it's a toss-up, and that's kind of why I said test your embossing folder first and do some practice ones. This particular sheet here was made, I'm going to show you a couple I do not like and I didn't think turned out well at all. This one is made with one of the basic 3D embossing folders, the same pack that you get the dots in. And the other 3rd one has cross hatches. The crosshatch one did not work well. This one I thought might work well. It kind of looks like little stars or little flowers, but in reality, when I did it, this is what it looked like. And I don't know, it seems like my trend is the more dense or consistent, I'm going to say maybe, the less variation of the pattern. I don't even know how to describe it. It doesn't seem to work as well because maybe the crayon isn't getting down into those crevices as well. I'm not sure. I also tried the 3D fern one, and that's what this one looked like. The one with the blending brush, I think, is better than the one with this, but if I hadn't told you it was 3D fern, I don't think it would come across as looking like the fern from the embossing folder, which is what, this is a beautiful embossing folder. And this really, I didn't think did anything for it. So I just wanted to show you those to kind of reiterate my point. Practice try different embossing folders, and find one you like before you decide which one you're going to do specifically for your card. So I used the watercolor painter technique for this card. This card is made with the horse and sleigh. And for this one, I don't have it with me, it's called the Starry Snowflake folder, I think. I forgot to bring it out here with me. It's in the new mini catalog, which you will be able to order from. Well, you can order from it now. It went live yesterday, September 6th, and today is September 7th. If you're with me live, if you're watching a replay, you can order this one now. This was actually the first one I tried, and I practiced quite a bit. This one is with watercoloring. Again, the blending brush, and I didn't keep that sample. Not so great. But I did think the sky turned out pretty good, like a snowy sky. So I went ahead and used it and made this card with the horse and sleigh. This is an online exclusive stamp and die set. Love it, love it, love it. So I got one more Christmas card made, and on the inside I just stamped in a Happy New Year. Both sentiments are from the horse and sleigh stamp set. So now I told you there were 3 alternative ways to do this. So I'm going to show you the last one, which I said uses the pointy end of the crayon. So the first thing we're going to do here on this one is we're going to stamp an image. And I am using black memento ink because I am going to color it with Stampin' Blends quickly for you. So there's our image. And I'm going to color this, as I said, with Stampin' Blends. I'm going to color the flowers with Moody Mauve. And we're going to do these quickly. I know I've indicated before, I am not a fast colorer. And the purpose here is not necessarily to show you how to color. We'll save that for another day. And I didn't bring my glasses either. I need those reading glasses. So if my coloring is really bad, let's just blame the glasses or the lack thereof. I think I've also said, no matter how often I go over my checklist of what I need, I always forget to have something over here where I do these videos. Unfortunately, I can't do the videos where I typically do my stamping because the lighting is really terrible over there. Way too much glare. It's a great area for stamping because there's plenty of overhead light, but as soon as I put a camera down on it, I get a lot of shadows because it's so bright above. Like my whole stand here for my camera, you'd be looking at a giant shadow of that. So I'm just adding a little shading here as we go. And we're going to now get the center of the flowers quick. I'll just add a little daffodil delight. And we'll color the leaves quick a minute. I picked a small image so that the coloring portion of this wouldn't take too long. And you could color, you wouldn't have to use Stampin' Blends. You could use your Stampin' Write markers. You can use basically whatever you want. Stampin' Blends are my favorite go-to. Okay, and we won't shave that one. Those leaves are so small, it's fine. So let's go ahead now and I will show you the technique. And like I said, I'm going to use this crayon. It's my same white Crayola crayon. And wherever I have coloring, including the lines, I am going to cover it with the crayon. So we're just going to, and I'm doing the stems as well. And once you see the completed card, you will understand why. The one thing is it's a little hard to see where you're going with the white crayon. It doesn't really make it white. It just, I think, is adding a coat of wax. So sometimes it's hard to tell, did I already do that spot or didn't I? So if I'm going over something twice, yeah, forgive me, I'd rather go over it twice than miss it. Let's just go down and get these long ones here. This is the longest part of doing this technique, is doing this coloring with the little white color of crayon, I guess we call them. Okay, so I think I have all the lines and the flowers and the leaves covered with my white crayon. And now I'm going to use my blending brush again. Oh, and I have to make sure that this blending brush is nice and clean because I needed two. So let's just make sure I got the green out of here as best I can because I'm going to change colors and I'm going to go ahead and use boho blue. I stuck with the blue from the in colors because I figured Moody Mauve goes with the rest of the in colors. So we're going to use the boho blue from the in colors. And this is pretty dark. Or at least it was when I did it last time. So I'm going to get my streaks off from here on my scrap first. And we are just going to color and add a little bit of background. That way we can highlight behind the image. And I can make this as dark or as light as I want by how long I tend to blend. I'm going to keep it relatively light here. Okay, that's good. I could go a little bit darker, but for time's sake, we'll call that good. And now let me take my tissue paper again. I'll get a clean one. And I'm just going to wipe this off. And that will take any ink off from the images that I had put the crayon on. So it makes it easy to add some blending color behind the image. We could blend it first and stamp and then color, but then you're always messing with the background color as you, like if you wanted yellow flowers and you're trying to have a blue background and you color the yellow over the blue, you may end up with a green flower, right? So this allows you to color whatever color you want and then add your background. And I'll bring this in closer. You can see that the reason I went over the stems, you can see that little bit of white on there, I hope. Let me put this in really close. I'm going to really mess my camera. It's not going to know what to focus on. But you can see that white in there, and that's where I went along there and didn't necessarily even try to stay on the lines. That adds a little bit of highlighting too, and it just kind of makes your image pop. So let me go ahead and show you that card. And I used the paper that's on here is the All About Autumn paper that from the All About Autumn suite, available in the mini catalog. So here's my card. This beautiful copper ribbon is also from that suite. Really glimmers and shimmers. And I think this is one of my favorite papers of all time. So that's the card that I used. And on the inside, I just used a little designer paper to finish it off and added some sentiments from different stamp sets. This one is from the Dainty Delight, same as the flower, but here I wanted something for birthday, so I just went to a couple of their stamp sets. And then, of course, my envelope I decorated. So let's bring all three cards back in. Here's the first technique using the blending brush. And then, and I shouldn't say the first technique, it's really the first method of the Crayon Resist technique. Here's the second one where I used water painters. And then this last one is where I used the stamp and then just blended the background after I put crayon over it. So those are my three cards I was going to share with you today. So let's go ahead and flip my camera back and let you be on your way. All right. I hope you like that technique. To be totally honest, I'm not going to say it's one of my favorites. I don't hate it. I don't particularly love it. It's probably not going to be a go-to one for me, but it was fun to try. And it's always fun to learn and try new things. So I hope you'll try it too. Who knows? You may love it. And if that's the case, I'd love to hear your notes or your comments. And if you enjoyed the video, will you give me a thumbs up? And hopefully you'll be back next week when I have a new video. I don't know what it is yet, but by next Thursday, I'll know and I'll share it with you. So I hope you have a great weekend and God bless. Take care.